Alright, so we're going to go through week of May 13. So this one is going to be 3-bet pots, big blind cutoff, and small blind button on this board. Alright, so it's a fairly interesting board, 866 with a flush draw. There's a lot that can happen. I mean, it's a paired board, so by definition, paired boards are disconnected. But there's both a flush draw and potential straight draws as well. In the two ranges, they'll both have hands like 10-9 and 5-4, which can make gut shots. 7-6, 6-5, 8-7. I think probably a little bit of ace-6 as well. Anyway, let's just get started. So, card opens to 2, button folds, small blind folds, and we're in the big blind, and we raise to 13, and the cutoff calls. Okay, and then we check and face this quarter pot bet. So what are we doing with these hands? There you guys think about it for a minute. S2 fold, yeah, okay, that's good. And what are the others?
Six, ace or all, because there's of spades doesn't, or as much as of the.
Yeah, I mean, there's something going on there. You're cutting in and out. Try change it to push to talk, because maybe it's not picking up the end of your sentences.
I have a very shitty mic. I'll perhaps just write.
Yep, sure, that's what you're gonna do. Yep. A6 off call. Yeah, all right. Why do you want to call? Raise 5-4, call, raise or call A6, and call Ace-5. Why do you want to raise 5-4? No flush draw and showdown value. I mean, it's a 3-bet pot, so it's debatable how much showdown value this hand actually has. Like, in terms of showdown value, you have to think of in what possible scenario you're going to be able to check this hand down and win. And at a position, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Less showdown value blocking 6x. I mean, both Ace-5 and 5-4 block 6x the same. In fact, neither of these hands block 6x because all the 6x will be suited. And both of these are the flush draw. So none of these hands block 6x. Yeah, so it's a 3-bet pot, so don't overestimate your showdown value. Alright, so the answer here is to raise this one and call this one, and you can raise and call the a6. What you said about a6 with the flush blocker is right. I mean, it makes it for a very nice call, because even if the flush comes, you still got the redraw, right? Yeah, nothing much else to say about that. So it makes for a very nice, pretty nice bluff catcher. Obviously, of course, you can also raise it for value. In terms of ace-5 and 5-4, okay, right, if you got 5-4, right, what do you have? You've got the straight draw with the 7, as well as a pair draw, right, with the 5 and the 4, and you've got the flush draw. The flush draw isn't as strong as the ace-5, obviously, and so for that reason, like, if you raise it and then you get jammed on, you're going to have to fold. On the other hand, with the ace-5, it's the nut flush draw, so you can conceivably raise it, and then if you get jammed on, you can still call, right? Just because you've got so much equity with your ace high, flush draw, backdoor straight draw, right? So should we here? So say for example, this is the betting range, and this is the raising range here. So this is the 5-4 that always calls, right? AS5. In terms of flush draws, like we're raising the flush draws that we can quite nicely call an all in, or if we're not so unhappy to fold it. All right, so like here 10-4, like it raises and then folds. Right, but it's not so bad because it wasn't that great of a flush draw to begin with. 5-4 is like a really good draw, so you don't want to have to raise fold that. Same thing with like 10-7, 10-9, Jack-7, Jack-9. Right, you don't want to be putting yourself into situations where you have to raise fold a flush draw, right? Well, in general, you really don't want to be folding flush draws. So if you got here, you can go, for example, even a small raise and then be jammed on. These are the flush draws that are calling, right? Flush draw, straight draw, queen eye flush draw, right? The nut flush draw clearly calls, right? Or a bigger size. None of the flush draws fold now because you've got the odds to call, all right? So yeah, putting yourself in spots where you have to fold a flush draw is not ideal, and 5-4 is probably going to be one of those where it's just not nice to have to fold that against a jam. Right. Okay, what else was there? Yeah, A6 and Ace2. I mean, Ace2 is just a bit of a hand to mislead you. And there's A6, so you know, with the flush draw blocker you can call sometimes. Otherwise, you're just going to raise it, raising all the other pairs as well. Okay. Alright, what do you guys think of this one? I'll let you guys read through it, and then you can let me know what you think. Alright, so call the quarter bot bet, dominant turn, fill my turn to the bot. They call, now we've got to decide what to do with the river. I don't think Ace5 also is in the range. Why is that? Wouldn't check call flop with this. Yeah, I mean this hand is definitely strong. Check call flop, but it'll raise most of the time. So it calls here. So all these hands will call here, right? At least some of the time. I mean this hand almost always raises, but you can call. See about aces. What do you mean? You can check call here. And check call lead turn. I mean, yeah. Which of these hands doesn't lead a turn? Yeah, I mean, the ace five off too. Yeah, it doesn't really make too much sense. I mean, with ace king, you're just betting for value. Ace queen, you can just bet for value. But with ace five, you can't really do that. So, the value in the sense is like they're all ace high, right? But ace king and ace queen have got the redraws to the ace to the king and the queen, which and then make the new top pair. But the five, like redrawing to a five, doesn't really do anything. So like if you just want to check, get the showdown with this hand, that's the best way to do it. Betting for value in the sense that you're blocking with these two. Alright, and so these ones. Why do you want to do it that way? Blocks the check back range most. What do you think's going to check back here? You need to make a decision between whether you want to block the checking range or whether you want to block the folding range. So say for example you had aces, use ripper. Right, you block all the folds, you unblock all the calls. And then that's the decision you have. Do you just jam here or check? Call by king with aces. Yeah, so here with aces you double block all the folds. So if you just rip it, he'll fold an ace. So like, and then he's got me calling with his king X and his other crap. So mainly if you just rip here, you just get him to fold out all of his ace X, which means jamming this hand is really good. of course, like checking it and having him bet into you, is that better? Not necessarily, especially like if he's going to be bluffing an ace sometimes, right? If he's sometimes going to be bluffing an ace, which he certainly may do, then checking this hand is no good, because then we block bets as well. Yep. We're going to check ace queen as a bluff. I mean, yeah, you probably could bluff some ace queen, but you're thinking about the combos. I've put these suits in here for a reason. So think about what the suits mean. Yeah, so if you block missed draws, it's not so good, is it? Because you're blocking hands that will fold. Yeah, exactly. Right. So, I mean, those missed draws with the ace of diamond will probably check back as well. Right. So for this reason, we can check the ace queen to give up, and we can better check the ace king. Betting it, it's fairly obvious. You just get getting value. Checking it, because with the ace of diamonds, you block their checkbacks as well. Alright, because they're going to be checking back hands with the ace of diamonds in it, specifically the ace of diamonds to draw here. That will just give up. Here, ace queen, blocking those folds makes for a pretty poor bluff. In fact, this double blocks both flush draws. Alright, so look at that there. I mean, not checking very much. There's the ace queen, that particular combo checks all the time. Yeah, it goes both ways. Like we block their folding range and they block our folding range. So that's why they're not going to be betting the ace of diamonds. So if we've got the ace of diamonds, we block their checking range. So that's why when we've got the ace king with the ace of diamonds, we can check it sometimes. Right, otherwise we're just going to be betting it. Okay, you see those two combinations of the ace king with the ace of diamonds down there. We'll check a little bit. Alright, aces just rips it. Like if you look at this, all the ace side just folds. So you end up blocking like half of this 30% of his range. So he's essentially like 15% more likely to call you when you've got aces. Versus like checking, he's going to be bluffing some of his ace high. So blocking those bluffs means that you end up blocking some of his checking, some of his betting range, which is quite significant here. You really want to be checking aces in the spots where you expect ace high to call you, and you expect ace high to never bet when you check. This is not one of those spots. Alright, let's go to the next one. Alright, so this 9 3/4 pot, check, check. Now it's on the river. You're always going to bet here on the turn. With Jack 9. Why do you want to do that? Like when you have a draw, okay, like you should your default out of position should be to check, right? Yeah, I mean if you're losing the picture, just leave and then come back. It might fix it. Yeah, so when you've got a draw, your default when you're out of position should be to check, and even in position, like your default should be to check. You need a reason to bet. When you're bluffing, all right. So like you want to be fairly selective. You always want to be very selective when you're bluffing, all right. I mean, if you just got a value hand, then yeah, you can usually get away with playing them a bit too aggressively. But when you've got a bluff, it's not necessarily the case because it usually becomes very easy to overbluff. In poker, like it's very easy to overbluff, so you want to be fairly selective when you do it. All right. So like here, Jack 9, just because I picked up equity, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to bet it. Yeah. I mean, you should your default should be to check and then find a reason to bet rather than the other way around. I mean, that sounds a bit passive, but it's not really because a lot of the time there are plenty of reasons to be betting the hand. But if your default is to check, then if you can't find a good enough reason, you probably won't make a mistake. Yeah, so with queens, it's a pretty nice hand to be betting here. All right. Is there a particular reason why you want to be betting queens all the time? Here in the turn instead of doing something else like check jamming it.
Is it because queens block a lot of the hands villain would bet, like, you know, the queen jacks, queen tens, those sort of hands?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see how queen jack and queen ten get here. Besides the spade combination.
Diamonds? Like, would the diamonds combo continue? Or I suppose not for that size, would it?
Yeah, probably not. Is there another queen X hand that would bet?
Suppose we unblock ace-x that checks back though.
I don't really see how that's relevant.
Okay.
I mean, that is slightly relevant, but there are some hands that will bet. Ace-X can definitely bet for villain here. That's not super. I mean, it'll probably check more often than it will bet. So like if they've got a hand like Ace Queen, which floated the flop, which definitely can, but all those combinations of Ace Queen can probably float the flop. They'll probably stab the turn here. Okay, as a bluff. So when we've got queens, we block his bets on the turn. Alright, so blocking his bets means that it's going to check through more often, which is not good for us. So we'd just rather bet it ourselves. So it's not within range because it always bets the turn. Alright, now the other three.
Checked the jack 9 because we're blocking checkbacks like 10-9 suited, jack 9's, jack 10 suited, 8-9 suited. So villains are more likely to bet like busted spades, those sort of hands.
Okay, again, which of those combinations does he have to get here?
King jack spades, ace jack spades.
And you think those are just going to check back the river now?
I'm saying they're going to bluff, which is why we should check the jack 9 to let him bluff those hands, which we unblock. Whereas we block his checkbacks of 10-9 suited and jack 10 suited. At least that's what I think.
Which 10-9 suited does he have?
Oh yeah, because he's folding flop with them, that's right. So I guess it's only 9-8 suited that's relevant. If he even has that pre.
Well, I mean, I think you'd fold 10-9 suited pre-flop, but even if you call 10-9 suited pre-flop, it'd probably bet here on the turn, so that's not...
Okay.
So what other hands we check back? So which hands check back for villain?
10x and 8x. Although again, the only 10x would be 10x of spades.
Yeah, so like when you're thinking about a 3-bet pot,
yeah,
the most likely hand to go into a 3-bet pot is a pocket pair, alright?
Yeah. Okay, so they're going to be checking back their 9s and their jacks.
Great. So
Okay.
Jack 9, what do we do?
We should check because we block their checks.
Awesome. Everyone else got that? If he's got a pair of jacks, got a pair of 9s, they're just going to check back, get the showdown here. So we've got Jack 9, we block that, so they're more likely to be betting into us. Right, and so a check break is going to be more successful. When Jacks bet the turn, yeah. So then it's 9s really. I think some jacks will check back as well.
Would we always bet aces because we block ace-x of spades and the jacks and 9s are going to check back?
Yep, so you need to think about why we would prefer to bet it rather than check it. Is there anything good about checking this hand?
just think we block like too many bluffs with aces for us to check.
Awesome. Alright, and that leaves ace king as bet or check. Why do you think we can do both?
I guess we have some showdown, but we can also fold out hands like nines.
Yeah, or even just your opponent's ace king. Okay, let's have a look at it here. This is what the lines looks like. What was on the range? Yeah, queens. Yeah, this is the betting range here on the turn. Like when you've got a straight draw, a flush draw, gut shot, that kind of thing, you really need to think about whether you want to be betting it or checking it, and for what reason. So, like, say for example, you've got these flush draws. All right, you can either bet it or you can check them. Okay, you're going to want to be betting the hands that you don't want to face a bet yourself, right? Or block the opponent's check back range, because if we block the opponent's check back range, that means that we're less likely to see the river for free, and so it just means that it's a better bluff for us. Also, blocking those just means that it's a better bluff. So like here, if we check, right, hands that the opponent might check back, be like a king jack, the queen ten of spades, a lot of ace king, right? So if we block those check backs, that means they're going to be more likely to bet into us. So when we've got a king x flush draw, it makes a lot of sense for us to bet. All right. And also the jam is so small, you can just call it. All right, what else is there? In terms of checking, right, you go for the check call with some flush draws, you're going to go check jam with some other flush draws. You're usually going to be check calling if you've just got a pair or a lot of showdown value, and then check jam with the other stuff. All right, so here the ace king and ace queen got a lot of showdown value, and still got a lot of draw value to the strong top pair, right? So even if they just draw to new top pair, the EV will be super high to just call. All right, 10-9's pair, queen 9. So that's got a gut shot as well. And the other stuff are the weaker flush draws, right? And the nut flush draw. In terms of the very weak flush draws, they don't even make it here, right? Because here 5-4. Where does 5-4 go? So 5-4 checks the flop, right? I think we already discussed that one. Right, because you wanted to be playing your hands in ways that you don't have to fold it. So in here 5-4, because it's a much nicer flush draw, you just go for the check call, right? Rather than playing too aggressively and getting folded off your equity, getting pushed off your equity by an all in, and that's always a threat in three-bet pots. Just getting jammed on. Like say, hey, you bet and you get jammed on. Like calling 5-4 would not be super nice. Yeah, what was the line? Check. All right. Any questions about that one? No. Okay, let's move on. Oh yeah, this one. Bet call. Check the turn. They bet quarter pot. So as always, it's probably a good idea to figure out which of these hands are not within range. Okay, so really thinking about how you play your flush draws on the turn here.
It's either the 10-4 or the queen 9 that's not in range. That we'd always bet it on turn, because ace queen we can easily check for showdown value, and ace 4 I'd imagine we'd be over bluffing if we barreled that every time.
All right, so decide between 10-4 and queen 9.
So then it comes which one we hate being jammed on with when we bet, and I guess we hate it with the queen 9 a bit more. Also, based off the last one, when we have the overcard, like this higher overcard, like king or queen, high spade, we always want to bet the turn, it seemed. So I'm guessing we always bet the queen 9.
Why do you want to bet the turn? Just because of the other example, I don't think it's good enough here.
Yeah.
So like, if you got queen 9, what does that block? That would check back, right? So when we've got queen 9, if we check it, we want our opponent to check back, rather than bet into us. Okay. So if we block checks with our flush draws, we would rather bet it. Okay. So which hands would bet into us if we check?
It'd be like flush draws and over pairs, right?
So which flush draws? I mean, a lot of his flush draws will have to check back because they don't want to get jammed on themselves, right?
I guess it's the non-showdown flush draws he'd be betting, so it'd be the lower, like the middling flush draws.
Not sure what you mean by that. So like, if he's got a flush draw, he needs a good reason to bet it here, right? Otherwise, he can just get jammed on.
Yeah.
Okay. So if he's got queen 9 himself, which he doesn't have for preflop, let's say he's got queen 10, right? Queen 10 doesn't want to bet and then face it all in.
Yeah.
So we'd rather just check.
Okay.
And that doesn't really help because both 10-4 and queen 9 block queen 10.
Okay.
So which hands are likely to bet? Here in the turn. So you can float the flop here and then bet the turn.
I guess it must be like their ace high type hands, and like their ace queen type floats.
Yeah, ace queen. So there's plenty of ace queen with the queen of spades. There's 3 combinations of that. There's 3 combinations of the ace queen of spades. So this hand blocks 4 combinations. That would bet. All right.
Okay, so if we block their bets with queen 9, then we can check the queen 9 a lot. So I guess that means the 10-4, we're always betting because we don't block their bets.
What else queen I got? Does 10-4 want to get jammed on here if we bet it? Or if we bet all in?
I guess we could jam the 10-4. Like, I'd imagine jam's the size for us on this turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, I can see like 10-4 jamming to force a lot of the overcard type hand, like the ace queens and stuff, to fold, which it really sucks if they bet into us if we check.
All right. So the decision is between checking and jamming. Which hands would fold if we go all in?
The ace queen type hands.
Yeah. What else? So you're gonna fold a flush draw?
Oh, you mean if we check jam or if we lead jam on the turn?
Lead jam on the turn.
Yeah, they'd have to fold their flush draws except for the ace high ones, I'd imagine.
Yeah. So which flush draws are they?
It's going to be like the king queen, king jack, I guess jack 10 type ones. like the Broadway flush draws.
Alright, so Broadway flush draws. What else would fold? So you got Broadway flush draws. So in terms of blocking folds when we go all in,
So that's not a good
you
thing
got
to have.
3 combinations with the 10-4. You got another 3, I think, with the Queen 9.
Oh, does that mean we should actually jam the ace-4 on the turn? Because since that ace-high flush draws are probably calling a turn jam, I'd imagine. That means we want to block those. So the ace-4 might be a jam, because it doesn't block. But if we beat the Broadway flush draws...
Oh, I mean, S4 doesn't have enough equity to jam.
Okay.
I'm just trying to decide between which flush draws call and which flush draws don't.
Okay.
Is our rate designed to talk about? So yes. As we go through, how many people have coronavirus this week? Next week? The next week after that?
Alright, sorry about that. Okay. Alright, which pocket pairs will always call a jam?
I'd imagine like 7s and up in terms of pocket pairs are always calling a jam.
So is that all of them?
I think that's
So
that's
just
all of them, right?
always calling a pocket pair.
Sorry, does anyone else hear that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're hearing something, just mute him. Alright. So you can see all in which pocket pairs. I mean, 9s definitely, because I got short, 7s is the open ender. Jacks, I think Jacks chops with the value range, right? Because we could jam Jacks ourselves. But 10s, that's not necessarily the case. 10s will lose lots of the value range and lose lots of the bluffs because the bluffs have a bunch of overcards. So it ends up having not that nice in terms of equity.
Okay, so we don't want to jam with the 10. So we might want to jam the Queen 9 then. Because we block the 9s which have to call because they have the draw. And then obviously Queens are going to call us. So maybe jam the Queen 9.
Yep. So blocking the 9s.
And we have a ton of equity.
What other stuff would call? I mean, Ace Queen would definitely call. King Queen. King Queen would probably call as well. Ace 9 would definitely call. So in terms of blocking hands that fold, you got Queen 9. Which hands fold? I mean, definitely the Ace Queen offsuit. Queen Jack, Queen 10 probably. Yeah, okay. So this one's not within range because you can just
Also, we jam the 10-4.
Sorry, other way around. What I'm talking about.
Oh, the Queen 9. Okay. Yeah.
The Queen 9's not within range because you just rip it here.
Yeah.
Probably because you're blocking 9s. I mean, you unblock. You unblock some stuff that folds. 10-4. Jamming it. I mean, it probably just has too much equity. To be honest, I mean, it's just very high up there in terms of its draw equity. And usually when that's the case, when it has a really high draw equity, with both the flush draw and the straight draw, you can just go for like a check call.
So in that case,
yeah.
okay. So I guess just by elimination, I'd imagine the Ace-4 has to fold because I can't see us folding the Ace-Queen or the 10-4.
Yep.
And then I guess we jam the Ace-Queen because we block a lot of calls.
Yep.
And we call the 10-4 to try and realize.
Yeah.
And because we block folds. Yeah, because we block folds, right? Because would 10s fold if we check jam turn, or are they too committed by that point?
No, it'll be the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, right, let's have a look. So this is the check jam in their tens faults there. In Jack 10, that's not really. There's two other flush draws, not super relevant.
So
Really about those flush draws.
Yeah. So are we able to look at the tens which fold again, just because it seemed it was suit dependent?
Was it? Check jam. Maybe with the spade will fold.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So having the ten of spades blocks the folds. Yeah. So we definitely don't want to jam it.
Man, in terms of your flush draws, picking the ones that blocks the calling range is nice too. Because if they're always calling jacks and nines against the jam here, you got to always call with jacks, always call with nines, always call with sevens. So blocking two of them makes for a really nice all in with one of them here, the queen nine.
Yeah.
Jack nine blocks two, jack seven blocks two, queen seven blocks one, but also blocks his ace queen as well.
And the king queen's calling. Yeah.
Even though ace queen folds, ace queen offsuit folds, but like there's only three combinations of the ace queen offsuit, probably less so because they don't necessarily all call the flop. Oh well, they do, but definitely the king queen, ace queen. So in terms of just ripping it here, you block two combos of better hands that'll call you, and three combos of worse hands that will fold. But then you also block another three combos here and here, or here.
Yeah. What's the weighting of the ace queen there? Because maybe the weighting of the ace queen off is quite low for this line. Oh no, it's pretty decent.
It's half here. Yeah, it's half here, so it's going to be half compared to full for these suited ones.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions about that? We don't suited, we happily call with rather than ace queen suited. Not too sure what that means. Alright, check down line. I think this is the last of the big blind versus cutoff, and then we move to small blind versus button. Alright, so with this check down line, what do you guys think? So which of these hands is not within range?
We've bet jacks at some point since we unblock a lot of the hands that villain's just going to give up with. Since we block a lot of the hands villain's just not continuing with, like, they're just going to fold out. They're ace jack with and king jack. They're broadways with hearts and clubs, so we should probably bet the jacks at some point, I'd imagine.
Yeah, good. So this combo of jacks really wants to bet here, because specifically it blocks folds and unblocks calls, and unblocks calls with the flush draws, and blocks a bunch of folds with the suited jack X with these two suits. Alright, so this combination of jacks really likes to bet on the turn, so this is not within range. Alright, now the other ones.
I think the 10-7's the best, just because we unblock a lot of the checkbacks. Like all their ace highs are just going to check back. So, and they're not really going to have many ace 10 highs. So we want to, and so a lot of their bluffs would have the 10 of clubs, I'd imagine. So we want to bet the 10-7 get called by ace high.
I bet 10-7 get called by ace high. That's reasonable. Alright, what else?
I was gonna say check the ace king, but if we're getting called by a lot of ace highs, then maybe ace king can be bet for value sometimes, since all their ace highs are going to be worse than ace king.
Yeah, so, good thought. And so then Queen 2 will check.
Because we block their folds, I guess, because they're going to fold their heart broadways, right?
Yeah, that's basically it. They've got like King Queen of Hearts. If we bet it, we end up blocking that fold. King Queen of Hearts, Jack, Queen Jack, Queen 10 of Hearts. You end up blocking 3 combinations of hands that we want to fold, so it's becomes pretty poor as a bluff here.
Are we getting called by King High at all, or is Ace High like the bottom of villain's calling range here?
Yeah, there's almost no situations in poker where you should call with King High on the river.
Okay.
It's pretty rare. If you got King High and like when there's Ace High, as like the second high card, right? Usually just better to raise that or fold.
Okay, got
Let's
it.
have a look here. Yeah, so don't try and hero call with King High. Like just raise it instead if you're facing a small bet. I mean, of course there are exceptions to the rule, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, so unless it's like a double paired board or something, we're not calling King High.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, so here there's the Ace King, bets the 10th of the pot, it gets called by Ace Queen, which is nice. Or we can also check and then call, at least sometimes. The 10-7 is betting for value, right? You bet quarter pot, you get called by all the Ace High and the Ace King. Sometimes you get raised, which sucks. But if you check, you're going to get bet into it by the same hands that would raise. And then you don't get that value from the Ace High from your opponent. What else is there? Here we're talking about jacks. Yeah, Queen 2 always checks because like if you bet it here, you just block this hand which folds, block this hand, these hands which fold. Right, like King Queen there. Right, over the Ace Queen. Blocking folds is not good when you're bluffing, especially on the river when you don't have any other equity for you. All right. Now moving over to small in this button. So here button opens, we 3-bet in the small blind, and they call. Same flop, different ranges, different spot, slightly different SPR. Alright, let's have a look at this one. 3/4 pot they call, half pot they call, we're on the river now. Stack to pot ratio is 1/3, or what do we do?
Is the Ace 4 not in range? Because I think we hate getting jammed on when we have that on the turn, right?
No, you can snap off a call. You can snap off here on the turn because.
Because we
Here
beat
is-
like Jack 10, 10, 9 spades. Is it?
Well, I mean, you've got the nut flush draw, and you only have to call 40 to win 200, so
Oh, okay.
you've got the equity to call.
Can't think of which one's not in range. Are you able to scroll up again just to see the line? Thanks. We bet that size on flop with quads. Like this is basically the max size on both streets, and although like yeah, usually we don't do that much with like when we block the super nuts, but I suppose villain doesn't have many 6x anyway in this spot.
Yeah. So here on the flop, you got the super nuts. You don't really have to. It's probably not best to be betting this size. Part of the reason why you want to bet slightly bigger on this when you're out of position is to try and deny a bit more equity. That's not really necessary with sixes. With sixes, you can probably go a little bit more geometric than this. right? Whether it's to go big and then down bet small, like you probably want to go roughly the same size across all 3 streets, because that way you get the most value. That way, because you end up maximizing the range which he calls with. If you bet a bit bigger and then go smaller, you end up shrinking his range a bit too much on the flop.
Okay, so the sixes aren't in range then.
Yeah, because they bet smaller on the flop.
Yep. Okay. I'm guessing the tens are just way too thin to bet on the river here. It feels, so we're just going to get snapped off by like a flush or ace queen quite often, I'd imagine. So I feel like tens would have to check.
Everyone else agree? Sorry, let's make this hand jacks instead. Yeah, let's do that. I think I made a mistake with this question. Yeah, okay, this hand is jacks.
Okay. I'd imagine jacks would. I don't know, do jacks play the same as tens here? Assuming same suits.
Alright, let's try that. Make sure I did that right. Yeah, they do play differently, yeah.
I guess now jacks can get value from tens and nines. Like, can we bet like 10% here? And just get called by tens and nines when we have jacks? Maybe the jacks are indifferent. So we can get small value from tens and nines, but I think if we did it every time, we just get owned too often.
Block jacks and check calls them. What are the answers again? Let's go through this. This one was the fold. This one was the call. This one was the raise. This one was the razor call. And this one's within range. Alright. What was this one? Checking this one within range.
King was check or bet.
Check
Yeah.
bet. Alright, there we go. Oops, made some mistake. Did I not save it? Anyway, the tens is jacks, same suits. Better block back jacks and check call, get the same value, normally checks back. 0v spot when they bet, block betting, doing 0v spots with bluff catches. I mean, are you sure you 0v when you check jacks? When you check and then call a bet?
We just lose to so much of his betting range on this specific river because we block no flush draws with jacks and we don't block any queens.
Yeah, so one of the in terms of what's necessary when you've when you're block betting is to make sure that you're actually going to get called by worse when you do make the block bet. Otherwise,
So
otherwise it's not worth it.
Yeah, so 10s and 9s call us when we block bet jacks. If we bet super small, I'd imagine.
Okay. So you want to always bet jacks?
Probably too thin. I think it might be indifferent. It might be check or bet.
Alright, now the other two.
If we're getting called by 10s, I guess that means that having the 10 blocker is pretty good with ace 10. And we block ace queen off as well, which villain should have a bunch of. So I guess ace 10's a really good bet. I'm not sure why we're checking the ace 4 suited if we are checking it. But ace 10 just seems like a really good bet.
Well, I think it's a really good bet. What hands will... What hands are going to fold when you bet this hand? Ace 10.
If we use a larger size...
Well, I mean, you got 40 big ones left.
Oh yeah. Small we block calls like ace queen's calling us a lot. And if we're able to value bet jacks because we're getting called by 10s, then I guess
when you've got 40 big blinds left, you really want to figure out what they're folding.
Okay.
All right. So when you've got a bluff, you want to figure out what they're folding before you figure out what you're blocking in terms of their calling range. All right,
Okay.
because if you end up accidentally blocking their bluffs, you're absolutely screwed. Like, so think about this hand again.
Okay.
Which hands fold when you go all in here?
If we're jamming, I guess it would be actually like 10s and 9s that fold to a jam. 10s, 9s, jacks fold to a jam. So having the 10s bad actually.
Yeah, having the tens is absolutely horrendous.
Okay.
Okay. When you've got a bluff, you definitely do not want to block their folding range, especially when the bet is very small, right?
Yeah, I was just getting mixed up with the sizes since jacks had bet small and to get called by 10s, whereas with ace 10 we're jamming to get a fold from 10s, which we wouldn't want to do. I mean, we don't want to block. Yeah.
I mean, there's also some other stuff that it could have like 10-9, 10-9, jack 10, right? That I might want to call this bet as well.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, because that turns open-ended. That's right. Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, they probably don't have anything. That's not the flush one, but definitely tens. is the
Okay.
issue there.
Oh, they'd have the backdoor flush one, wouldn't they? At least of 10-9.
They probably don't have the 9 preflop. Alright,
Okay,
let's
yeah,
replace that with this one. Okay. And within range. Alright, try this one. And I'll show you guys this. There you go. Don't know why it screwed up. There's the ace 10, there's the jacks, there's the sixes, which are non-existent, and would have always bet small on the flop. I mean, tens, if you got the combo with the spade, it would check, but you really don't have the combo with the spade here on this line here at any kind of frequency. And then jacks will do both betting and checking. You check and then you get jammed on, then like you can call with jacks, like just, right, he's very small. Or you can block by betting a tenth of the pot when you've got a third of the pot left behind. You can block bet a tenth of the pot instead to get called by tens and nines, right?
And are we still calling off with jacks if we block and get jammed on?
Yeah, and then you're indifferent.
Okay.
They don't really have jacks there. Yeah, 10-9. Like if you bet very small, like you gotta think about which hands that they're going to be folding. There's a little bit ace 8, which we didn't talk about, which will fold. Definitely those combinations of tens that will fold. Oh, they do have 10-9. What am I looking at? This is small. This is button. Yeah, the range is a bit different. So they do have 10-9 here. So those 10-9s will fold. Those 10-8s will fold as well. All right. So blocking folds is really bad when you're making this very small bet. Okay, and even if you go all in, the same kind of hands that will fold. So you're just blocking a lot of folds when you've got ace 10. All right, so blocking folds is bad when you're bluffing. So when you're thinking about deciding whether or not you want to bluff here on that river, think about what they're folding. What hands are they going to fold? Do I block any of them? Oh wait, I do. Okay, I'm going to give up because I block all of his folds. So if I go all in, he's going to call. And if you did go all in here, with that particular combo, was it the ace of hearts? With that particular combo, with the 10 of diamonds, we would have lost 8 big blinds by doing it. 8.5 big blinds by doing it, which is a lot, right? And that's just because you block that tiny portion of his range that always folds. All right, there's the next one. We bet half pot, and then we check the turn, and they quarter pot into us. All right, so any thoughts about this? Which hand's not within range?
Would we bet the ace jack here? I mean, on the turn.
Why do you want to bet ace jack on the turn? Why do you want to bet all the time? Is there a particular reason why checking ace jack is really bad?
I mean, for a moment, I just thought that we don't have much showdown value on that specific turn, but I suppose because we're blocking a lot of the jack X hands that we're ahead of.
Well, here when you got the flush draw, you need to decide whether you want to bet it or check it. All right.
Yeah.
And remember what I said earlier, like your default is going to be check unless you've got a good reason. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So do you have a good enough reason? Does this hand block hands that will check back? Right.
Yeah. I don't think it really blocks the checkbacks much.
No, so like if we check, he's more likely to check back at himself, right? So
Yeah.
For that reason, we can put into our checking range because we're more likely to see the turn card. I mean,
Yeah.
we're more likely to see the river, right?
Okay.
So this hand can definitely check here. All right, so which hand's always going to bet the turn?
I haven't been totally paying attention, but I would imagine that the Jack of Diamonds would be a card that would show up in positions like bluffing range a decent amount when we check, and like King Jack, Jack 10 of Diamonds, something like that, maybe even like Ace Jack of Diamonds. So I would guess having that card is going to block some of his bets, so maybe we just want to bet that ourselves.
Yeah, okay. All right. What else has that gone for? So like, which of these hands really doesn't like to bet to check, right? Because like, you've got a good reason. All right, but is that strong enough to make it always bet? Is the question.
Suppose we don't want to lose a bet against 9s or 10s with it.
I'm trying to think.
So
Ace
what's wrong with checking aces here?
Oh, we block their ace queens, which are going to bet very often.
Yeah, that's one reason. What else is there?
We unblock a lot of their flush draws that hate being jammed on, which are going to check behind as well.
Yeah. What else?
Yeah, I guess the Ace of Diamonds would work similarly to the Jack of Diamonds. Like if they had a hand like Ace Jack or Ace 10 of Diamonds, that could be one that might bluff.
Okay, so here we focus on, yeah, I mean, you block those bluffs with the ace of diamonds, that kind of stuff. Ace of diamonds, ace of hearts. I mean, I don't really see too much difference between the two. Of course, the diamonds will call a slightly higher frequency, but still some of the hard combinations will call. Also, if we just bet, they're going to fold ace high. Those the same ace highs that would bluff if we check. So for that reason, like here, when you've got aces, if you bet it, we block hands that fold, unblock hands that call, right? But if we check, we end up blocking hands that will bet into us that are worse. So
Okay.
It makes for a really good bet here, right? Checking it will just not be nice for you. I think you're losing about half the people in EV if you check here. So this is not within range. All right, so now looking at the other ones, raise, call, fold. No, sorry, raise, call, or raise or call. Yeah, I mean, you could say that as, you could say that with Queen Jack. unblocking the flush draws, unblocking the queen ace.
I think with queen jack we can raise sometimes because we get called by ace high flush draws.
You get called by ace high flush draws, do you? With queen jack.
I
Yeah.
think if we jam the queen jack, yeah, we can get called by worse. Maybe not ace high flush draws, but I think we can get called by worse if we raise the queen jack.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely get called by worse. Is that good enough reason to raise rather than call?
So it depends how much worse he has that calls. And I guess we block jacks, which might continue.
He doesn't have jacks from preflop here. Because there's a different spot. Small versus button.
Oh, okay. Or if he doesn't have jacks, but he'd have 9s or 10s, then it probably makes it even better as a raise, because we don't block worse hands that call.
Yep, good. And what's so bad about calling this hand?
We allow a lot of hands to just check behind river, or a lot of hands to realize.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those overcards will just outdraw us, and with the jack kicker, it's not so nice because like if the jack comes, we make another 2 pair, but like our relative hand strength is roughly the same. But like
Yep.
if a king or a queen comes, our hand strength goes down by a lot compared to our opponent, which usually can be bluffing with king high and ace high, right? Yeah, so like for this reason, you kind of like merge jam queen jack here, because it really doesn't want to let villain see the river, and it can get called by worse. Of course, it does get called by a fair bit better as well. It's definitely not a raise for value, it's just a raise because we're folding out some of those bluffs that will be able to over-realize against this particular hand. And we also get called by a bit of worse. So it's like a block jam, right? We jam, getting called by worse, we get called by a lot better, but we don't want to see the river with this hand. Or to be more specific, we don't want our opponents bluff betting range so you see the river, because there's so many different rivers that will allow them to outdraw this hand and reduce this hand's EV to 0, especially when we're out of position or close to 0. Now the other two. Like on a comparison, like queen jack with like king queen, or if you got king queen, like at least having the king if the king comes, you're making a stronger 2 pair and you beat all the new top pairs, so makes for a slightly better call than the queen jack, right? Because it's less vulnerable to that overcard coming. Although obviously both queen jack and king queen can check raise here. All right, any decision about ace jack and ace queen, ace king?
I think I like raising the ace jack sometimes because their floats are going to have more of the ace of spades, including like the ace queen off floats. They're going to be more likely to have the ace of spades than not the ace of spades. So we block more ace queens with ace jack suited than with the ace king.
So you want to go for a non all-in raise here?
Oh yeah, so our size there wouldn't be all in, would it?
Or if you want to raise or call it. I mean, if you do that, you open yourself up to getting jammed on.
Okay, and we hate getting jammed on with the ace jack.
Well, I mean, when the stack ratio is very, very low, you don't really hate it. But here, like, if you just raise to like 40 and then get jammed on, I mean, you're probably still always going to call, but it's not quite as nice as just calling and then seeing the river and making a nut flush, or making a pair of aces or a pair of jacks.
Our flop sizing was smaller this one as well, wasn't it? So I'm guessing villain might have all ace queen offs. anyway.
Yep, I don't really see how that's relevant, but okay.
Does he call he wouldn't call him like king queen of clubs on the flop, right?
Why,
Or
why
is
not?
that
Why not?
I don't know. It's like seems like close.
I mean, he can have a king queen offsuit with a spade that will call.
King queen with the spade, yeah. Oh yeah, right. This is small blind button. Yeah, I've noticed some of these the ace king things. They're like weird because they're not. I don't think they're super intuitive, but I think they like they play like aggressively in a lot of these spots, and they jam, and then they get called by like the nut flush draw, and they're doing really well, and then they have usually 6 outs versus like any pair. So I don't know. It's like weird, and it's pretty counterintuitive, I think, but I've noticed that it does this a decent amount. So I would guess that the ace king would be like the jam or call, and then the ace jack is just gonna call.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, he got ace king, that particular combo, the clubs. You can just go all in here. Right?
It's the ones without like, especially without the ace of spades, right? For the
yeah, for the all in size.
Yeah.
Without the ace of spades. Because either you're getting ace of spades to fold, or you're getting ace of spades to call. I mean, in either of those situations, it's not too bad for you when you've got the ace king. You're doing really well against the nut flush draw. You end up just blocking all the top pair which calls, because all the top pair is either the ace king or the ace queen or the king queen. So you block a lot of that, and then you unblock folds, right? I mean, you do block a little bit of folds in terms of these offset ones, but you unblock these folds down here at the bottom. All right.
How often does is king queen without a spade or no backdoor flush draw calling flop? I see you have it. It's like all at 100 right now. Okay, yeah, that's
not too much. I mean, it really does like to have a spade.
yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so bet half pot and then we check it down. Before we look at this, I'll show you the show what happens when it's the 8 instead of the 7. Plays with this as well. But like if it goes 6-8, we just rip our entire range. Yeah, so that's interesting. All right, bet half pot and then check it down. So what do you guys think?
I think we would have bet the 10s at some point because of the suits, since we'd unblock a lot of the floats on the flop.
So let's figure out which one's not within range. So which of these is not within range?
So I saw yesterday on the board when like the flush draw was there, the king queen flush draw was always betting because it blocked a lot of their checkbacks. But when the board is trips, I'm just trying to think how that would, if that would change things. But I don't think so, because I still think a lot of their flush draws would check back. So you do block a lot of checks when you have the king queen of spades.
Yeah, but remember they've also got king queen offsuit with a single spade.
King queen off with a spade, they could bluff. Yeah.
Yeah, so that doesn't really help us.
So yeah, it's
king queen.
yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, with queens then, since we block a lot of their bluffs, since they're going to have king queen off, that means we should probably bet queens on the turn, since their range is going to be more along the lines of 9s and 10s and ace highs that are going to call us on the turn.
Well, what I was saying with King Queen is like you can bet it here or you can check it, right? And they both have merits because they block some checkbacks, but also block some bets as well.
Yeah,
Right?
I was
So
saying with
Queen will do the same, right?
okay.
It'll block both bets and it'll block both checks. So unless you have a really good reason, like here on the turn, you've got a decision between tens and queens. Unless you've got a really good reason, one or the other.
I'm thinking tens.
You want to.
So tens not having the spade should really only block like. I don't know how often a hand like ace 10 off would bet the turn, but like that seems like the kind of hand that it would.
Yeah, they don't have ace 10 offsuit. Free flop.
Oh, so that doesn't even matter. And then I guess they have some hands like 10-9. I don't know if those bet the turn.
Would you bet the turn with 10-9?
Well, the trip boards are weird because normally I would say it's like a lot of those spots you don't want to bet and then get jammed on or whatever.
Well,
or maybe with like a gut.
If you got 10-9, you got 10 high. 10-9.
Yeah, so in here it might not matter either because you're. I'm not sure how much like how valid it is to. I know on like some of these trip boards it's weird when you have like the straight draws or the flush draws because if you bet and get called, a lot of times you're up against a boat, so then your like draw outs aren't as good. Whereas when you check, they might be better. But yeah, 10-9 I would imagine would mostly just bet or like. I don't think Jack 10 would float the flop, but like stuff like that. Anyway, I do think tens would be the bet because I don't really see it blocking any. Also, if they had a hand like pocket tens, that's probably another hand. That's probably a hand that would bet. So I think we would just want to bet ourselves with tens.
Yeah, so here in the turn, like when you're deciding whether to bet or check it, if you block hands which check back, then that means that we would be more likely to check this hand. We don't do that at all. In fact, we end up blocking a lot of hands that would bet, right? And then when our opponent does check back, what do they have? They have a hand like King Queen High, Ace Queen High, King Jack High, right? And those hands still have 14% equity against us each. But collectively, like out of all the overcards, it's going to be what, a quarter of the deck that we're a bit worried about when an overcard comes. So it'd be nice to just bet here and charge those draws to see the river rather than having it go check against them. Because against those particular draws, those draws are basically going to check back against us. And if they've got a hand like 10-9, right, or Jack 10 or whatever, 10-9 is probably the main one that's going to be betting into us. Okay, so we end up blocking hands that are worse than us that bet into us, and then if it goes check, it's not very nice because a lot of the river cards will be an overcard.
Also, he has pocket. He has pocket tens also, right?
Yeah, pocket tens as well. So we end up blocking a lot of pocket tens, which we block.
It's that's a hand that we want to stack.
Five combinations of pocket tens. So we want to yeah, so blocking all those combinations of 10s and 10-9. Was it eight combinations in total that we... 7 combinations in total that we block with this hand. Which is a fair chunk. You know, the check back range. So betting at ourselves on the turn is good. So that's not within range. So what are the other 3?
Oh, so you said a lot of the hands that they have containing a queen are gonna check back. So that means if with queens we block their checks, we'd be more inclined to check ourselves, I think, with queens.
Which particular hands are you talking about?
Queens.
Queens blocks like ace queen.
Yeah, queens blocks ace queen and king queen, and I'd imagine that their king queens would check back with some frequency because they have some showdown value.
I don't know if king queen has any showdown value, but Yeah, I think queens would check and then go for the check jam. I mean, aces, I would say for sure. And then I think queens, just because it blocks the ace queen, plays somewhat similarly in this spot.
So does that mean maybe queens are indifferent then? If we're checking aces all the time, we can't check like all our overpairs all the time. So
Yeah, I'm not saying for sure. I don't know for sure that aces would always check. I think aces could for sure check for that reason. And then I think because they don't ever have ace king, like queens would blocks a lot of their ace high. And then I'm not sure what they do with king queen, but the thing is they would have like queen jack and stuff that could be hands that maybe would bluff. So it's like I think the queens is a little bit dicier, but yeah. But I think a 7, if you had a 7 would I'm trying to think, like I would guess a 7 would always bet and would just bet small. I don't think you need to check any 7s. I think your check range will mostly just be the ace highs. So I think pocket 7s then would always bet. Yeah, and you probably just bet small and then hope they raise something and then you jam. And then
too thin to bet, right?
What's that?
King queen would be too thin to bet because like it's a flush, so we beat.
I don't think so. Like a lot of their pairs probably would have bet the turn. So, and like also, if you check and then they bet big, you're probably going to be indifferent anyway. Or I don't know if you're that might be stupid, but like if you check, they can still bet as big as they want, sort of thing. So it doesn't really matter. Like it might be better to just try to bet small and get called by like some ace highs that they have. But I mean, you do block like some of those ace queen off with like a spade and stuff. So I guess it's like a little dicey. Yeah,
Queen blocks too many bluffs.
I'm trying to think what their bluff range is here.
I could say king queen blocks too many of the worst floats that call.
Like, and then that those would bluff river, you think?
I'm more saying that like I don't think we can bet king queen for value because the hands that might call us, like the float flop that are somehow worse than king queen, are going to be like ace queen with a spade or king queen, or like ace queen with a spade, right? Or ace king with a spade, and we block the worst hands that call us with when we have king queen. So I think it's just too thin to bet for value.
So would you bet like king jack or king 10 of spades for value then? Just not blocking ace queen?
I'm sure we can bet a flush for value here because with basically all of our flushes except for maybe something like I think the only low flushes we'd have would be like a straight flush, but yeah, I just can't see all of our flushes would block the ace highs that call flop.
Great. So here with king queen, you block the ace queen, which is the main hand that we want to call us. So we can't really do that. So let's just check that. And queens, it can get value by just ripping all in and getting ace queen to fold most of the time. Or we can check block ace queen and then check raise all in. So there's the queens, the 7 just rips it. Middle hands just rip it. Right. If we look at our flushes, there's king queen, queen jack, queen 10. So like those ones which block the queen, not so good because if we bet, we want to get called by this ace queen, right? So blocking that ace queen just means that we block a lot of the hands that are worse than us that would call. All right, so can't really bet that for value, but if we go check, that'd be nice too.
What does it do with like
a flush?
Like king jack and king 10 of spades or whatever? Are those just block?
Yeah, so the king jack, the king 10, king 9, they can block now because they don't block the ace queen, which will call.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right. This one, bet raise, 9%. Bet raise, check bet. Okay. The quarter pot, we go raised. No, sorry. We check raise. Alright, so we check raise the flop, and we check the turn.
I don't think I like checking jacks on the turn because they're going to check behind a lot of flush draws on the turn, which don't want to get check jammed on. So I think we just bet jacks on the turn. And we hate overcards coming on the river as well, which is why we kind of want to protect jacks as well.
I think all those overpairs could check jam turn again. Like this turn's probably not very good for us. It's probably better for him. So we're just gonna check a lot, and then he should bet a decent amount, and then jacks or whatever overpair can probably just check shove or something on the turn.
Yeah, I just think when we have jacks though, they're just checking behind a lot of overcard and flush draw hands to realize their equity. And I don't think we get the check jam in enough with jacks, and we hate a ton of rivers with jacks. So because they'll have nines as well a lot of the time. So we basically hate like a 7, a 9, and a queen, king, or ace when we have jacks.
Well, I think nines or tens would just bet for them, like most of the time. So we're just gonna stack those hands anyway.
Yeah, so
like because for the same reason that we want to bet jacks, like they'd probably want to bet nines or tens, right?
Yeah, but we're not losing value against nines or tens by betting the jacks either.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter then, right? If we bet or check first those hands, we're probably gonna stack those hands.
Yeah,
either
so
way.
then it's the case of being against like the overcard hands and flush draws when we have
For sure. But like,
yeah.
So like you're right, like ace queen, I would imagine would check a lot, but like if they float the flop with like king queen or whatever, like that hand is probably pretty incentivized to bluff or something, and then a lot of their hands with I don't know what their flop floating range is. How big do we check raise the flop, Thomas? Is that like half pot? I don't know. So if we call, it's yeah. So I think that's half. Okay, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm just I just feel like the hand that wouldn't check is going to be 7-6, but I can't really, I don't really know why. So I'm trying to think about it.
Actually, when we were talking about tens and nines always continuing for villain, right? Does that mean that maybe the 10-9 is the one we always bet because we actually want the king queens and stuff to fold when we have 10-9? Because we block the main continues of tens and nines when we have 10-9, and like all the ace queens, the king queens, and all that stuff.
All right, so like so think of these two hands differently, right? So you got two bluffs and you got two value hands, right? So when you got a value hand, right? When we decision to check, we want to block checkbacks, okay? Or if we want to bet, we want to block hands that would bet if we check. All right, so decision to check raise jacks. What hands would check back that we block? That would bet for us if we yeah. So which hands check back that we block?
Maybe like ace jack of diamonds or something.
Yeah, ace jack of diamonds. You could have that. And so if you can have ace jack of diamonds, you could probably have ace of spades, jack as well. Right, and those kinds of hands we probably want to bet into us here on the turn if we check. Right, so since we block hands that bet into us when we check, we'd much rather just bet this hand. In terms of the rest of the blockers, it doesn't really block much else. Right, so we're just focusing on those. So with this particular hand, we block hands that bet when we check, which is not good because we want our opponent to bet into us. So we should just bet it ourselves when they're on the turn. 7-6. What hands does this block? So this, we've got a 7, right? 7 clubs. This will block 8-7 of clubs that will check back. It'll block ace-7 of clubs that will check back.
Pocket sevens, probably.
Pocket sevens, maybe a good chunk of the time. Right, so it ends up blocking a bunch of check back. So this hand, it makes for a fairly good check raise because we block the check backs. We actually don't block too many hands that bet into us. Okay.
Well, we block 6x, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's not relevant because we're not really trying to get value out of 6x because we block that either way, whether we bet or check it.
Yeah.
Alright. 10-9. What hands? So this 10-9, it wants to go check and then see the river. So does this hand block hands that bet into us? If we check, blocks 10s and 9s, those hands with bet.
And 10-9.
Yeah, blocks
Which
the other.
probably bet.
Blocks one combination of 10-9. Maybe ace-9 if they got it, will probably bet. Although I don't think ace-9 will be able to call this. Ace-9 of hearts probably won't be able to call this. So it's mainly the 10s and the 9s. So if we block the 10s and the 9s, we're blocking hands that bet into us, so we're more likely to see the river. So checking this hand isn't unreasonable. Ace-Queen. Ace-Queen's got enough showdown value, I think, that just wants to give up now and try and check down to showdown to win against their opponent's ace-high. Yeah. It does block with the ace of spades, blocks some hands that will bet into us if we check, namely the ace of spade flush draw, the nut flush draw. Alright. Okay, so jacks here is the only one that is pretty poor to check. Right, all these other hands have some merit to checking. Alright, and now once we figure that out, what do we do?
Ace-Queen just folds because we block too many bluffs from villain.
Good.
I mean, my first thought was that the 10-9 made a good raise, but because it unblocks a lot of folds and it blocks like their 10s and 9s, that would be value. But at the same time, the 10-9 kind of wants to see a river. But I just think we get folds so often when we raise the 10-9.
Yeah, so if you get a lot of folds, then raise it.
Yeah, it's a good bluff.
Yeah,
Also, I
7-6
think
calls,
your
right?
your pair outs could also be good with 10-9 too. I don't know how often, but sometimes.
Against the calling range, yeah, possibly. Probably not that much. I mean, you've just got to cut shot with good blockers to 10s and 9s. That's the main thing.
Is only raise size all in, or do you ever raise smaller? Or
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter because you're like effectively all in.
It's only ever all in. Okay. 7-6. What are we going to call this, right? 7-6. I mean, what is 7-6 even afraid of? Like nothing. Basically, any river, right? This is a board that's very wet and so wetter boards are usually good for imposition, meaning that if they have bluffs, like those bluffs will complete, and then they can use other hands to bluff instead once those bluffs complete, and then value bet. So when thinking about what possible rivers there could be, I mean, a 9 completes our straight, a 4 completes our straight, an overcut completes complete some of their new top pairs, right, which will bet into us, right, and we're fine with that because we've got tribs. Right, so 7-6 makes a really good call because whatever the river is, right, we can just call again quite happily. I mean, the only real exception is like a spade, but we discussed that he's not going to be betting too many flush draws because we can just jam into him. All right, so the fact that we've got other hands in our range that will jam here prevents him from betting too many flush draws to make us, which means that our 7-6 makes for a really good call.
So how often is villain jamming into us on the river on a spade? Like we're snapping off every river with 7-6, obviously. I'm just wondering how often villains betting into us on river.
Well, I mean, it's only going to be like 40 blinds left, so we're going to be jamming a lot.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the thing is, on a spade river, we've got more flush draws than they do, so we're going to be donk jamming in order to get him to jam into us at a higher frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can see the logic with 7-6. Like if an overcard comes on the river, that's going to make some new top pairs for him that will jam into us. Right. So here jamming ourselves actually doesn't accomplish too much because we end up folding out hands that will jam into us on the river. Right. After they're complete, it's kind of like when we're a lot deeper and we trap a boat. The same kind of idea here. Right. Except with the second ratio being a bit shallower, our hand doesn't have to be quite as strong to make that trap. Yeah, right. Last one. All right. Bet raise, donk turn, and now we're in the river. This is a fun line. I'm sure you guys take this line every day of the week.
Is there a mistake with the 10-9 because the 10 matches the suit on the board?
Yep. Sorry, this flop has been copied wrong. So I've got to copy this here and here. So it's this flop instead of the first three cards. So it's 8-6-6 ace jack.
Got it.
Okay. So what happened? Bet, raise, call, bet, call.
Yeah,
I get the feeling.
8-6-6 ace jack.
Yeah, I get the feeling we might free bet flop with either the 10-9 or the 10s. The 10's probably not 100% though.
I think tens would. I think basically all your overpairs are just gonna 3-bet get it in, except maybe like aces and kings or whatever.
Great. Yep. So 8-6-6 just 3-bet all in.
So tens, yeah. So tens not within range.
So bet check, bet or check on the 8-6-6 ace jack.
I'm gonna guess we lead this card a ton, so it's just gonna be which hand. Oh, sorry. So they all lead. Okay. So then we're just on river. What's the river? Jack. So I think. What is 10-9? 10-9's nothing. 10-9 just has to give up, right? Like that's gonna block all the folds pretty much.
Great. Yep. So I mean, you're trying to get hands like 10s and 9s to fold. So
or 10-9 of spades.
Yeah, so like you end
yeah,
up
it's just-
blocking 7 combinations of hands that you want to fold, so it's not really good here.
yeah. Ace King is just gonna bet itself. Having the, I think having the spades, like, I would imagine that he's supposed to bluff.
Is he going to bluff the
maybe
ace of
that's-
spades?
I don't know if he's gonna bluff. No, obviously not the ace of spades. The
Ace of spades
king
is
of spades.
the king of spades. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Is he going to bluff the king of spades?
I'm not sure actually if that. I guess he has worse flush draws. Maybe I'm not. Seems close.
Well, I mean, he's going to have 10-9, right?
Yeah, 10-9, and then I don't know what the ranges are. Like, if he has like any of the straight draws, like 9-7 or anything. I don't know if those are in the range.
Yeah, he probably doesn't have 9-7.
So
8-6-6.
So it's just, yeah, just 10-9 of spade. Yeah, so he probably has to bluff miss flush draws.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we would just always bet then ace king.
Alright, so he's going to checking back the king of spades. Alright.
Wait, why is he checking back the king of spades?
Because it beats our 10-9s, right?
Yeah, because at least at
So
10-9, you're giving up with a lot here.
Yeah, I mean, but anything beats 10-9. Like he can't have a hand where we just said he doesn't have 9-7, so everything beats 10-9.
Yep, so you're also going to be giving up with some other missed flush draws too. Right? If you got the king of spades missed flush draw, what would that be? King of spades 10?
Or
king of spades queen? Like you're going to give up that hand. Or even I don't know, king of spades. Yeah, king of spades queen maybe. Alright, so all those hands are going to give up. Okay, but fives on the other hand, if you rip it, what hands does it block? It blocks your opponent's pocket fives, but do they really have a lot of fives?
We have ace 5 of spades, still, right? So we block that.
Yeah, you block the ace 5 of spades, which is nice. That would call, but we're trying to figure out which hands are we blocked that fold.
5-4 spades.
5-4 spades. Why doesn't 5-4 spades just raise the turn, or just call the flop even?
Well, I don't know. I'm just thinking of hands that we block.
Yeah, so we don't block that many folds here, so we can just bluff jam. This one.
We're trying to get them to fold a jack.
What's the SPR on the river?
Yeah, we got them to fold a 10 or a
half.
9. Yeah, this SPR is about half, so let's have a look at it here. Put to 100, there's the 10-9, gives up. I mean, a lot of hands you need to give up. Alright, because when you take a line where you've bet the previous street in your position, you're just going to have to give up a lot. And then we get bet into you're folding a lot because this is the give up line. And in terms of your bluffs, right, when you know you have to give up a lot, you want to be very selective about what bluffs you're going to use. So here if we rip it, think about what hands are they going to fold, right? It's going to be a lot of 9s, 10s, right, these are the pocket pairs. Okay, and ace queen, sorry, king queen, king 10 flush draw, queen 10 flush draw. Right, so when we've got 5s, we really only block 5s and 5-4, but like those aren't very frequent in our opponent's range. On the other hand, we block 6-5, which our opponent's going to have a lot of, and ace 5, which our opponent's also going to have a lot of. So we block a lot more folds than we do. So we block a lot more calls than we do folds, right? And our opponent has plenty of other hands that can fold instead. All right. So that's why 5 is there, always goes all in. The ace king with the king of spades. All right. Checks it. The ace king of spades, because our opponent will be more likely
Wait,
to
how
check
often
back
were we checking with that one?
frequency at which the ace king checks, like
Okay.
70%.
But what are we doing with like king? It looks like king queen off and king queen suited. We're like basically always betting.
Yeah. So ace king with the ace of spades and the king of spades you end up blocking these checkbacks with the ace of spades, his weaker top pairs, right, and his miss flush draw. Okay, but if you jam your king queen, you end up just blocking a lot of ace king, ace queen, which will call, and those king jack queen jack, that'll call, and then you unblock these weaker pairs that will fold. So like king queen also makes for a fairly nice bluff in that regard.
So is there a reason? Because I remember, and I don't totally, I guess, understand how this works. When you're like in position, usually you bluff from the bottom of range. But is there something? It looks like there's something here that's going on because he's not bluffing the king high hands, but then he's bluffing the low pocket pairs.
Yeah, so it's got to do with which hands you're going to check and give up, right? So like if you're going to give up these king high flush draws, right, that king 10 king all those pairs now, like probably if we do this instead, yeah. So like these pairs here, like if these pairs give up, right, with the king of spades jack, king of spades 10, right, your kings, if those hands all fold, blocking them becomes really bad. So like you can't really bluff with your king of spades at all, right? Bluffing with the king of spades ends up being quite counterproductive to you because you end up just blocking all the hands that he'll fold, that will fold, right?
And is it basically they all have no EV checking down, so it doesn't matter. So then you're just picking blockers, or they all have the same EV checking down, I should say. Like they're all going to be the same give ups pretty much.
No. So like when you're in position, a lot of your hands will have. I'll draw a little graph, I guess. So like when you're in position, here we're just like looking at the. Let's just look at the weak hands, right? So the hands that you're thinking about bluffing. In terms of check down EVs, so like it'll look like this, right? And then it'll just be and say for example you want to bluff, and then your bluff threshold is like here, right? This is just assuming that your blockers don't mean anything. If there's no blockers at all, if there's no blockers at all, then like all of your the EV of all your bluffs will be roughly the same. Will be exactly the same. But because there's blockers, right? It's not really a straight line, right? It might just be, it might be the checking. Sorry, the betting EV might be higher for some hands, right, and then lower for other hands, and then higher for some hands because of the blockers, right? So this means that we'd be checking all these hands, right? And then we'd be betting all these hands, okay? And then you're checking all these hands. And then you're betting all these hands.
Gotcha.
And then checking all these hands, and then betting these hands here. Right, and that's because of the way the blockers have worked out.
Gotcha. So it's not really about
bet EV.
The showdown value doesn't matter a ton if you have blocker reasons to do something.
Well, I mean, the showdown value is this EV checking, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The blockers are gonna affect your EV of betting, right? Most of the time.
Yeah, it just seems like a.
Like
it just seems like a disaster.
Most of the time, the EV of betting is going to be roughly the same. So, like here, for example, like with the twos, trying to bluff the twos, your EV is 36. All right, and then
what's the EV of checking that hand?
The twos, it's 32. And then like the 10-9 is 26. All right, versus checking is 11. right? Here, like checking is 30.67 and then betting is 30.35. So like in terms of all these weak hands, the EV of betting is roughly the same. All right, but the EV of checking is very different, and sometimes the EV of checking is slightly higher than the EV of betting based on the blockers that it has.
Yeah,
That's why you got this gap here.
I don't know if we ever check as the out of position, if we're ever checking king queen. It looks like we don't.
No.
So it
so
doesn't
like
matter.
when you're out
Okay,
of
I was going to say
position,
because
when you're out of position here, it's a bit different. When you're out of position, here you've got a lot of bluffs from the previous street that now need to give up. So that means that this bottom of your range is going to have very low checking EV. Okay, so like all these hands at the bottom have very low checking EV. Okay,
Right.
there's like 2.3, 2.4.
because they just check fold versus any bet or check lose.
Yeah,
Most of the time when he checks back.
All these hands have zero. Just yeah. It's just like you check, and then like he's always going to bet into you if he's got a hand that's weaker than you, and then you'll have to fold.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you're never getting to showdown and winning.
Yeah. So I guess my only question was like, if we had, let's just say, I don't know if this obviously this isn't happening here, but this is what I thought was happening, so that's why I was confused. If we were ever checking king queen just as a give up, then would he always bluff king 10 in that case? Because I saw that king 10 was checking back.
King 10.
No, for in position, I mean. Like he checks back a lot of king 10, it looks like.
Yeah.
But we're never checking king queen, so it doesn't matter. Like king 10 and pocket twos or whatever are going to be about the same in checking EV. But if we did have a spot where we bluffing king queen, would he then be incentivized to bluff from the bottom of his range? Like just a high card hand as opposed to pocket twos?
I mean, his king 10 is going to block a lot of our king queen, so it's not really going to matter too much.
So it doesn't matter a ton. Okay.
I mean, usually in position, it's going to bluff from the bottom unless they see that their bluff is really
blocks
bad.
all your folds or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's normally how I approach it. That's why I guess I didn't totally understand why like high card hands were giving up here, but pairs are bluffing. But I guess just the high card hands have like really bad blockers.
These pairs, like what was the difference between pocket twos and king queen here? Nothing. They beat the same hands.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I asked about the king 10 thing, but it doesn't matter because king queen is checking, so it doesn't change anything.
Yeah, and pocket twos and king queen have got the same showdown value essentially, right? But twos has got better blockers, so it would be used as a bluff over the king queen.
Yeah.
Out of position, you got a lot of stuff to choose from, so better be selective.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So 5 is the bet because we want to be selective for that. All right. Hopefully we put everything in correctly. Sorry about the mistakes. What did we? Did I input something wrong? Probably did.
I think I saw it above a little.
Which one was the first one?
Like number 2 or 3 or something. Right up there. Up.
Oh yeah, I input this wrong. Yeah, when we jumped over it. Anyway, does anyone have any questions? All right, so yeah, I mean, once again, you can just. There's a lot of different flops, and like here, how long would it take? Like 2 hours to have a look at a single flop for two different spots. So you can go through this for hours and hours and still not know all the intricacies. I mean, and there's a lot of donking and 3-bet pots on these turns. Like you go for the check call and 3-bet donking, especially on an ace. A bit of king and the queen. Right. Look at some other flops. I mean, queen 3 is probably going to be bet the entire range in this setup here. But in the cutoff button versus cutoff, probably going to have a substantial checking range. Right. You can just compare the two different flops. side by side in terms of looking at the checking range. Like in the small blind, you're going to be doing a fair amount of just range betting after you throw it pre-flop because your range is so condensed, but that's not necessarily true in the big blind. For the load. Let's have someone load for me while we... Nope, open up the same one. There you go. So there's the big difference in the frequencies, whether you're condensed or a bit more polar. And yeah, I mean the earlier the opener, the more polar you're going to be in the blinds. All right, so big blind versus cutoff is going to be more polar than small blind versus cutoff, and big blind versus cutoff is going to be more polar than big blind versus button. Right, and same for small blind versus button is going to be more condensed than small blind versus cutoff, right? Because the calling range, small blind versus cutoff, is wider than small blind versus button. You're going to be playing closer to 3-bet or fold against the button than you are the cutoff or the low jack or whatever from the small blind. Does it make sense to everyone why that happens? Why you're playing closer to 3-bet or fold from small blind versus button and cutoff compared to low jack and hijack?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Does it have to do with how often you get squeezed by the big or something?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's definitely part of it. I mean, if you're up against if you're up against a tighter opener, you're going to get squeezed less behind. So you're going to have more calls, right? You can afford to call a bit more.
Yeah.
Your opponent behind you is also not going to be calling as much either. So like when you've got a strong hand, you can defend just by calling rather than. So your calling EV is going to be higher for a lot of your hands.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there another reason though? I don't know if that's what you were getting at.
Yeah, that was the main thing that I'm getting at.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like the closer you are to the left of the opener, the closer your range will be to 3-bet or fold. That's why hijack versus low jack is 3-bet or fold in my ranges.
Yeah.
If I added a calling range into the sim, it would probably be close to 0 anyway. Cutoff versus hijack is very close to 3-bet or fold. And then the calling range kind of winds a bit as you go button and then small blind and then the big blind. Alright, hopefully you guys learned something from this quiz answer tutorial on the 3-bet pots. You can play these boards a bit better now. Yeah, I mean the main thing I think you guys should take away is focus on the decision to bet or check when you're out of position, right? Because like that sometimes you're going to have hands that will always bet or always check, right? And then the hands in between, like you're not really going to make too much of a mistake either way, right? But definitely being able to decide whether you're going to be always betting a hand or always checking a hand is valuable, because that's where EV comes from, right? The extra EV that you have over your opponent. You can make these decisions to bet jacks here. Right, instead of ever checking it. Okay, or where are we up here? Like the 10-4 here. Always checking 10-4 here and then calling it here rather than raising all in. Right, so these decisions, which seem quite close, are important. All right, because they all make up the gaps in EV. Okay. And that's kind of why I stopped asking the questions about which hands are indifferent, which hands aren't different, because it's actually not quite as nice as knowing that this hand is definitely a raise or a call or whatever for this reason, because most hands will just be indifferent. And knowing which hands aren't indifferent is really the key to getting a lot better at the game.
suppose also we can't really make as much of a mistake with the indifferent hands, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the time the indifferent hands will be indifferent up until a point. You play a line where it's just indifferent between the two options, and then it'll get to a point later in the hand where it suddenly won't be indifferent, right? And then knowing what to do then.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty difficult finding the exact action. Yeah, I mean that's the point. I mean, a lot of these hands, you just look at it first up, like, I don't know, how did I get here? What is this line? I've never seen this line in my life. Like, what is this line here? Quarter pot raise and then donk the turn. Yeah.
Yeah, like if I saw the 10-4 line, I'd think I was playing against a complete donk before.
Thomas, do you have any have you done any sims for I guess two questions actually. For like earlier positions versus big blind single raise pot? And also, do you think that the button big blind single raise pot sims are still, even with the new ranges, they should still be good? Or do you think that it would change?
They should still be pretty good against someone who opens min.
Okay, right.
But I don't advocate for opening min anymore. On the button, I think on the button.
Gotcha.
I might not have updated it yet, but when I make the next update to the ranges, so here, this is the button range. It'll say 2.25 to 2.75.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So if you think, do you think it's? Yeah, I guess it's going to change a bit just having the bigger button open, just because of the defending range more than anything.
Sorry, I don't understand your question.
For like the big blind's defending range will change a bit for like a 2.5 or something, so that might change some c-bet strategies.
That'll change a lot, so that's why I'm going to have to redo them.
Yeah, I was gonna run some, and then I was wondering if it was better to run them with the min and just kind of rerun the same sims, but then change the pre-flop ranges a bit.
If you want to run some single raise pot sims to help me out, probably.
Yeah, the problem is for the single raise pots, like I don't think
probably open the low jack, and then get called by the small blind or something.
The low jack big blind ones aren't too bad, but having like
no, you can get a low jack small blind.
Oh, that'd be interesting. I've never really studied those, so that'd be kind of interesting to look at too.
Yeah, like you just look at low jack small blind, open to big blind, and then call, and then have some donks on the flop as well, and see if you can run it. I mean, if you can't run it, I mean, you should be able to because the ranges are fairly tight.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure like what parameters you like or whatever. I know that when I've tried to look at some of them, it's getting like however many bet sizes. I have like 32 gigabytes of RAM, and then I know with GTO Plus it'll compress, so you can run sims that are a little bit bigger than that and stuff. But
hang on, let me turn the recording off and we talk about it. So anyway,
okay, sure.
Thank you.